Good morning, everyone. So today we are going to be studying the last chapter from your Vistas textbook. So this is called Memories of Childhood, chapter 8. Now this will be the last chapter from your uh, Vistas textbook, as well as this will be the last lesson from the whole of your textbook. So in your next class we will be studying about not from the textbooks but from the writings portion. So this memories of childhood is kind of divided into two parts. So we are going to see two writers here who are writing about their experiences, the experiences that they have about that they have when they were only very little children. Now these days, racism, casteism, all these things are, minority groups, all these things became a very sensitive topic and a very sensitive issue everywhere around the world. And what happened is this: in this chapter, the two writers belongs to the lowest class of the society, what we call the lower classes of the society, and they are writing about what they are experiencing as a lower class in the society, as a children, as an innocent children, what they were experiencing being the lower classes of the society. They had a very bad memories, the bad memories that they had during their childhood. This is what they have written down here. Now in the first part we see the writer Zitkala Sa. Now she write about her childhood memories. Zitkala Sa is what shall we say, what belongs to a tribe of the Native Americans, whom we now used to call, the Red Indians. So very long ago, what happened is that when we go back to history, we could see these minority groups, the Native Americans, also known as the Red Indians, being undermined by the white settlers, those who come to America. So what happened is this: they had faced so many discrimination, they had faced so many violence as well. They had faced so many type of casteism, class distinction. All these things are faced by these a group of minority groups, or the Native Americans that we now call the Red Indians. So Zitkalasa belongs to this group of Native Americans. Now she is writing, the topic of this first part of the lesson is called the cutting of my long hair. Now what happened is that these Red Indian women, the Native American girls, they never cut their hair. So they feel that the cutting short their hair symbolizes a person who is a very coward, or a very who is not able to live within the norms of the society, and they consider it as a shameless act to cut their hair. So for them, their hair symbolizes something that is very valuable to them. So because of this, they do not want to cut their hair. From a very from when they were very little girls, they know the meaning and the symbol of the long hair that their parents or their grandparents so wanted to keep them. So they never cut their hair, and cutting their hair means that means for them it is a very shameful act. So they do not want to cut their hair. Instead of cutting their hair, they would be protecting it. If anyone tries to cut their hair off, then they would be protecting it with their life. This is what they were doing. So she is in the first part of the story. She write about her experience. She said that she had been so many of the other girls along with her, so many of the other girls, her native girls, they had been captured. They had been sent to one big place, one big building, or a very big building, where all of them were made to line up. Now they do not know the meaning of their the reason why they were captured, because they were little children. So what happened is that they do not know what happens to their parents. These white people, they just came and collected all these children from their villages, and they put them together in one place. Some of the children knew each other because they belonged to one tribe, but so many of them do not even know each other because they were collected from different groups of natives, and these white settlers were capturing them and putting them together in one hole. And so she is referring to the first day that the first day of experiencing this kind of captured or being imprisoned by these white settlers. So what happened is that on the first day, the night before she was captured, and on the first day, early in the morning, they rang this. There was this very large bell, and the large bell was rang, and which indicates that it is time for breakfast. So all the children, they were made to line. They were made to form a line, and they were lining up in the dining hall, and lots of them, hundreds of them were there. So the girls on one side and the boys on the other side, they were made to stand in line, and they were waiting for their breakfast to be served. Now what happened was that she said that there was this annoying clatter of shoes on bare floors. Now what happened is that these people, they they do before, they do not wear any types of shoes. Maybe they wear this, animal skins that they made of for themselves as shoes. But this kind of, the civilized kind of shoes, the modernist kind of shoes that the white settlers produce for them, they are not used to wearing this kind of shoes. So it was clattering, it was making lots of noises on the ground, and she said that those noises were very annoying. Now what happened is that they were and people, the other people were talking amongst themselves. There was loud noises, and they were murmuring, others were murmuring, and she could not make out any kind of single noise among them. So she and her friend were made to form a line, and they were standing amongst the rows of girls who were there standing as well. Now a pale-faced woman with white hair came up after us. Now there was a pale-faced woman. Pale-faced means a white woman with white hair. She came to them, and when they were made to go in line inside the dining room, they made to form a line, and they were wearing this loose kind of clothes that they produce for them. And some of them have this shingled hair. Shingled means cut short hair. So some girls were already without their hair were already cut short. So those girls might be the ones that they captured some days before, Zitkalasa and her friends. Now she said that when they were going inside those dining halls, she felt like sinking to the floor, for my blanket had been stripped from my shoulders. Now she said that, covering themselves is also essential requirement of their native tribes. But those blankets that they used to cover themselves with were taken away by the white people. And because of that, Zitkalasa is saying that she wanted to, sink to the floor. She wanted that, the floor will be swallowing them up. She preferred that the floor swallowed them up instead of standing there almost naked with only their loose clothes like that in front of so many people. So she find it very difficult to adapt to those kind of changes. And now from the opposite door, the boys were marching in. The boys, same like the girls, they were marching in. The boys were also provided with some shoes and some clothes that the white people wanted. And now what happened was that there was a chair on the side of the table. There was a long table for those boys and girls to sit, and there were chairs there lined up. So those chairs had been pulled out. Now again, what happened was that when Zitkalasa looked around, she could see that everyone was acting very disciplined, just like robots. They were marching in, standing there, and again the bell rang, and they were taking out their chairs. They were made to sit down. And after that, what happened was that Zitkalasa, without thinking too much, without looking at others, she just took out her chair and she sat there. But when she looked around, she could see that she is the only one who was sitting. So immediately she stand up again, and then another bell was ringing, and all of them were seated. And what happened was there was a man's voice which could be heard from the end of the hall, and Zitkalasa, she went to look at the man. But what happened is all the other children, they do not even dare to look around. They were hanging their heads. They were looking at the table only. They were not allowed to look around. So Zitkalasa also, she was looking at all this. And what happened was when she was looking around, she could see that the pale-faced woman was staring at her. So immediately she turned back to her table, and she was keeping her eyes down, keeping her head down. And again another bell was ringing, and then all of them picked up their fork and spoon, and they began to eat. Now by this time, Zitkalasa was crying because she was very scared now. She did not even dare to look around. She did not know what to do. She did not know when to eat or how to act. So she became very scared because she was only a little girl by this time, and she became very scared, and now she began crying. Now, what happened was her friend's name is Judwin, and she had a friend named Judwin, and Judwin can speak a little bit of English by that time. Zitkalasa does not speak English at all during that time, and Judwin, she can speak a little bit of English. And what happened was Judwin could hear these white people murmuring to themselves, and Judwin told Zitkalasa that their hair is going to be cut as well. They are going to cut their hair after they had their breakfast. All their hair are going to be cut. Now, when they were discussing early in the morning, when she and her friend were discussing about cutting their hair, Zitkalasa said fiercely, "No, I'm not going to submit to them. I am not going to submit and let them cut my hair." But her friend insisted. Her friend Judwin said, "No, we have to submit because they are very strong, and they will cut our hair even if we want it, or even if we want it or not. They will tie us and they will cut our hair." Now what happened was that after when everyone were still eating, Zitkalasa, without finishing her breakfast, she quietly went under the table. After everyone were eating, while everyone were eating and busy with their food, she quietly went up the stairs in order to hide herself. And when she found one room which was very dark, there were some beds there, and she slowly went inside that room, and she was hiding, and she went under the bed, and she was hiding under the bed. Now what happened was that she could hear that downstairs there were some commotion. What happened was she knew that they were calling her name, and they were searching for her. She could hear the footsteps coming up she could hear those footsteps that were running up the steps. They were opening rooms and they were opening doors and they were opening the cabinets, the almirahs and all these things, and they could not find her. And she thought that she could escape. First a little bit of hope came to her. She thought that she could escape, but suddenly the room where she was hiding, the door of that room opened, and they were pulling back the curtain, the black curtain that was hanging there. When they were pulling back the curtain, they could spot her from under the bed, and so someone was pulling her out, and she was crying, kicking, screaming, biting, and she was fighting with all of her strength. But she knew that those adults were stronger than her, and she had to give in eventually. But until she can keep on fighting, she was struggling and she was fighting with all her might. And what happened was that they carried her out, and they made her sit on a chair, and they were tying a rope around her, and they were tying her. And finally she was crying aloud. She was feeling like, an animal that was captured, that is going to be that is going to be butchered. She was feeling like an animal who is waiting to be butchered. So finally she gave in, because she could hear the scissors that was cutting her hair. Finally they were cutting their hair, and she was crying. She wanted, she was feeling so lonely, and she was missing her mother, and she was missing the peace and quiet that her family used to have. And so she was crying quietly inside of her, and because she feel that, they were taking away her valuability, they were taking her power, her strength. So she quietly gave in to what they were doing to her. So this is the story of Zitkalasa. So in the next part of the story, we see the topic, the story titled "We Too Are Human Beings." This is written by Bama. Bama is just a pen name by an Indian. Bama is actually an Indian writer. The pen name of a Tamil woman, and Bama is actually a very well-known writer in India. She used to write so much about caste, the caste system that is prevailing all over India. And she is now writing about her experience as a little girl. And she said that when she was studying in third class means class 3, so she did not have, when we were in class 3, how old are we? About 10 or 11 years old, right? About 8, 9, 10 years old. So we do not have knowledge of true knowledge of what is actually happening around us. So let alone caste system, we do not understand about caste system and all these things. So she said that she used to walk home from school, and she is a very happy, energetic girl during that time. And her school is situated nearby her home, where it was only about 10 minutes by walk. But because on her way to school, she could see so many beautiful shops lined up, and there are so many, sometimes there were some performing monkeys, sometimes there will be circus people performing something. So she used to be so fascinated with all these things that it used to take her about half an hour to get home, even though it was only 10 minutes by walk. So she used to see so many things on her way back from school, and she is now writing the experience that she had one day while coming home from school. Is that there are some people who are building a house there, and she could see that people were working, building some houses there. And in one part of those building, in one part of the place, they were setting up a little platform there. And on that platform, some middle-aged man was sitting. A middle-aged man, he was fat, he had this big round stomach, and he was sitting there, and he was supervising the work, and he looks like he was the boss of all these, amongst all these workers. So he was sitting there and he was ordering about these people. And she, again, Bama was so fascinated by uh, all these kind of things that was happening there. And what happened was that um, she while she was looking at all these workers working here and there, she could see that there was an old man, a very old man who was slightly bent, came towards that big fat man that was sitting there. And this old man, he was carrying some packet inside there, and he was carrying with only his, at the tip of his fingers, and he was handing that small package to that fat man who was sitting there. And this made Bama this filled Bama with laughter. She thought that the scene was so funny. She was laughing very hard and she found it very funny. But when she went back home and she told her brother was already a big boy by now. Her brother was already a college student, and she told her brother Anand about what she saw that day. But her brother did not find it amusing at all, did not find it funny at all, and her brother explained to her what it meant. Her brother said that that fat man who was sitting there belongs to the upper caste, and because of that he acted like he was the boss of all these things, and he was sitting there. And the old man, even though he was older than that fat man sitting there, even though he was older, this old man came serving the fat man, because this old man belongs to the lower caste of the society. He is poorer, he is lower in caste in the society, in caste and class. So these lower classes of the society, they were considered untouchables. Now, these days we do not use the term untouchable, we use the term Dalit. But untouchable, they were still, it was still more or less the way they were treated was more or less the same. Untouchables means that, those lower caste in the society were not to be touched by these higher caste people. And the things that they, not only they were not allowed to touch, physically, skin to skin, but they believe that whatever they touch, these lower classes touch, were considered to be very dirty. So because this poor man, this old man is serving this higher caste person, the way he was carrying that packet, why he was carrying that packet at the tip of his finger was that if those bread, the vadas that he was carrying, it was vadas means the South Indian eatery. It was very tasty, very delicious kind of thing. And if he carried, even though it was covered in banana leaves, they used to cover it with banana leaves, and then it was again, that banana leaf was again covered with some piece of paper, again that was again covered with a plastic cover. So if he carried like this with his hands, then all those the things that were inside will be considered as dirty. So this fat man, the higher caste men, will not be able to eat it. That is why this poor man carried it at the tip of his fingers and handed it to this man like this, so that it will not get dirty. So this is how the society were treating the lower caste people. And Bama, when she grew up, she came to realize that they belong to the this same lower caste of the society. And her elder brother, who was had already studied during this time, had already studied at a university, so he was very well aware of what is going on in their society, and he understood why what is going on in and around this society, even though even though Bama's brother is a very educated man, is a very good person in studying, they never consider him as a respectable person in the society because they belong to the lower caste of the people. And uh, what uh, what what her brother, what her elder brother always told her is that you should work hard, you should study hard, so that if we study hard, then when we achieve, success in the future, then no one can look down upon us. So we should work hard and we should study very hard. This is what her elder brother used to tell her. Now with that, we have finished the last chapter from your textbooks. This will be the last chapter from the whole of your textbook syllabus. So again, once again, I want you to go pick up your textbook and read your text, all those lessons that we have studied before, that I have told you before also. Please go take out your textbook, study your text, read your textbook thoroughly, study your text, so that you will not have any kind of trouble when the time of examination comes. So I wish you good luck, and I hope we will see each other in the next class very soon. Thank you, class.